Hello, welcome to the It's All Good show. Lucas here for a chat. I have, I've had again, one more time, technical difficulties, and I am happy to report that I think we got that figured out. So we'll find out as we go and talk with Judy Baker. I don't have my file in front of me. I'm so not organized today, but she talks about books and publishing, and you'll be happy to hear about that. But the reason why I call this show It's All Good, it's mainly because of my favorite cup. It's all good. And I love that cup. It's my favorite cup. It's huge and it's orange and white, and but also it reminds me that regardless of what happened in life, regardless of situation I find myself into, that whether it's positive or negative, it's all good. It's just the way it is. You can't change the past and you can't predict the future. So all you can do is show up and be happy and make the best of what lives bring to you. So I hope you all had a good Christmas, because it was just yesterday when I recorded this. And if you're watching this show live, I would love to encourage you, either live or where's that thing? Or on replay, subscribe to my YouTube channel. And then I would love for you to just click the little bell so you're being notified whenever this show comes up again. So that was my little advertisement. So let's bring Judy in, because we've been waiting for like 15 minutes for her to come on. So Judy, welcome.
Thank you, Denise. This is such a fun opportunity.
So I'm glad you're here, and I'm glad that we'll see how it goes. Last time we had some delayed, but right now it seems to be okay. And then I have Scott that keeps writing me notes and telling me things, because we called customer support while we were trying to have problem, and now Scott is giving me messages, and I say, Scott, I'm live, I can't talk. Now I have the big window open, and he showed me a little puppy saying bye bye. So I don't know. Okay, you gotta
Oh,
love
that's
that.
a hoot. That's so funny.
He showed me a window with a little dog that said, "Okay, bye, thank you." So, Judy, tell me about you, and tell me who you are and what you do, and what the world should know about you right now to start. While I open your phone.
Okay. Well, this is interesting because I'm in the process of kind of rebranding myself. My primary purpose in life is to help authors who have written a nonfiction book and it kind of is dormant. And I realized when I first met authors back in, well, I went to a convention and I found that most authors treat books like something very, very precious, which the content is, but a book's a product. And because I had a real strong branding and marketing background, I went, oh, they need me. And I started working with all kinds of authors, nonfiction, fiction, and soon realized that nonfiction is really where my heart lives.
Yeah.
And I've been working with authors since about 2011. And I wrote my first book at 16. I learned how to use a typesetting machine and a printing press. And so I was off to the races with that. Yeah, so I really feel very strongly that authors can reach their audience when they take a slightly different approach to just publishing their book.
Hmm. Yeah, it's nice to write a book, and it's awesome. And I'm in the process actually to writing a book, and but then you need to do something with it, right? You can have
Well,
a
yeah.
slightly greater impact when you publish it and put it out there, and either get it printed or get a nice PDF format for it or whatever, right?
Well, the truth of the matter is most authors sell less than 250 books over the lifetime of the book. And the reason is we all know about 250 people. In order for more people to see your book and to learn about you, you've got to do some stuff like an interview on a podcast. You can
Mhm.
do speaking engagements. You can turn your book into a number of different other formats because print is not the only format. And we're
Mhm.
seeing an explosive growth with audio. It's over
Yeah.
a $2 billion industry, and it's been gaining about 20% every year. That is not going away. But people like to consume books in a lot of different ways. We've got audio, we've got print, we've got digital, and courses and podcasts, and I can go on, but then we would be here till next week. So your book needs to reach your audience in the way they want to consume the content.
Yes, yes. And myself included, like I get the audiobook first, and then if I really love the content and I feel like when I get to a certain point, I say, "Oh, I would love to highlight that, and then I continue, oh, I would love to highlight that, because it's really difficult. You can do a little bookmark in audio, but it's just not the
Mhm.
same. But then if I
No.
feel that it's the feeling I have with the book, then I would either look for the PDF for that book, or I would actually buy the hard copy and then go and do my marking in my book so I can refer back to it if it's something that I would use regularly, right? But otherwise, it's audiobook works really well for me, because then you just listen and you get the knowledge.
Mhm.
You can listen doing anything. You can make your dinner and listen. You can walk and listen. You can drive and listen. You can either
Yeah.
just sit and listen.
Well, you brought up a good point because that is truly one of the ways nonfiction books sell more of themselves. People get
Mm.
the audiobook and they want different formats because, sometimes they're looking at their tablet, sometimes they're, as you said, in the car, sometimes they want to mark the book up. And when people really, really get value, they'll buy all the formats. And
Mhm,
and
mhm.
folks who don't publish their book in a number of formats are really missing the boat because, I don't necessarily know how do you want to capture that? How do you want to get that information into your head? And it
Mhm.
really it brings up so many opportunities and I'm really excited about this because I only started listening to audiobooks about 5 years ago, I think, and it was
Uh-huh.
because a friend said, "Oh, you've got to try this out," and I went, "Okay," and I did, and I went, "Oh my goodness," and I have a theater background, so you would have thought that would have been a natural for me, but that's what I thought audiobooks were performances.
Mhm.
Well, that's a yes or no because we've got we've got author narrated books, and that's typical for nonfiction. You have a standard, say, single narrator. You've got multiple narrators. You've got full production numbers. So
Mhm.
we're starting to see lots of different
Yeah.
variations,
Yeah.
even in the audiobook world. It's so exciting.
There are two books that I listen in audiobook, and I don't think I would have enjoyed them as much if I would have read them. It's
Hmm.
the first one is Michelle Obama, her first book,
Uh huh.
which was what was the name? The first book she wrote right after they left the office.
I want to say becoming. Am I
Becoming. Yeah, I think that's what it
becoming?
is.
Okay. Yeah.
And she's telling her story, so I felt, and it's a long book, and I felt like she was just talking with me, right? I felt like we were sitting having
Yeah.
coffee and she was telling me her life story, and I was just there and I was nodding and laughing, and like I was like, oh yeah, yeah, just like if she was sitting in front of me. And the second book that I listened, and I'm glad I listened as opposed to read, is Green Light with Matthew McConaughey.
Oh, I haven't listened to it.
And it's a must. It's a must because he's reading it. First of all, I love
Mhm.
his accent. I like he's so, and I don't think everything that he does in the audiobook is in the book, because
Probably
like he's
not.
telling a story and he's laughing and he's like I'm sure there's some ad lib in there because it's flows so nicely and it's so natural. It's
Mhm.
just like if he was sitting beside me and telling me his stories, right?
Oh,
So these two
that is
books, if you
very
haven't listened to them, add them into your must listen to book because they're pretty
I
awesome.
well, what you've really hit the nail on the head. Those 2 have brought you into their world. You're now connected with them in a way that you never would have been other than meeting
Hmm.
them live and in person. And oh, it makes this emotional connection, which is what we're all going for. It's not just knowledge. We want to share what happened in our life, reveal what's going on so that we find that commonality. And I mean, I think that's why I've always loved books. They've taken me places that were in my imagination. They've taken me to historical
Yeah.
locations. I've gotten to know people through them. There's nothing better than a book in my opinion. Well, movies too, but I like all of the arts that are about words and
Yeah.
connection.
Hmm. So tell me, like somebody that's writing a nonfiction book right now, and you said you
Mhm.
mostly work with people like those. So why would they hire you? So what's the purpose? Like me, I'm writing a nonfiction book, right? It's a
Right.
self-help book. And why would
Mhm.
I want to work with you? What is it that you do that will help me in my path towards, being a successful author?
Well, it's great to work with authors before they've published. I typically am working with people after and they've had a not great experience. But if you can work with me before you've published, we're going to look at who are you looking to connect with. Your message is very important, but what do those folks out there need from you? And the
Hmm.
more you have done research, you could ask questions, you might do a survey, you might do some sleuthing around keywords and even looking at, well, this is something a lot of self-published authors forget to do. You want to do a book proposal even though you're publishing yourself. And the reason you do a book proposal first, and I would guide you through that, is looking at who are your competitors? What other books are out there? And when someone says to me, oh, there's nothing else out there like me, I'm
Well, it's
going,
not true.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's probably not true. And if it is, why is it true? You got to really tell me, how come you're
So
the
yeah,
unicorn?
what's important? Why would people want to read something that nobody's talking about?
And it happens. And you're going to invest a lot of time, money, there's revisions. I mean, writing a book is a process and you don't do it all by yourself. So when we
Hmm.
work together, we're going to look at who are you looking to serve? What do they need? And we also know sometimes people think they need something is what they want is different than what they need. And what is that book going to do for you, the author, in your life and in your business? And when you know that from the start, you can plan your book so that it is answering questions that you may have encountered already with your clients or with your community. You know that there's an interest there. You can look at other books that are similar or on the same topic and see what they did and what they didn't do. Because
Hmm.
maybe your book is filling those gaps that other authors didn't understand or didn't get. And your voice is very important. You want to sound just like you. And
Hmm.
I am a stickler about this one thing. I'm not going to turn you into someone you're not. I want it to be your authentic voice. I look at organic reach over paid first. You can always add money to how you're getting the word out. But if your organic reach isn't working, you got to really look at your framework there. What's your message and what are you trying to accomplish? And when we have those pieces in our in our list here, I've got a client attraction roadmap, and you'll not only will you look at what you put in your book proposal and looking at comparable books, we're looking at how you're going to serve your audience,
Uh-huh.
What do you have in place now? Because everything you do is part of your platform. And that, I think that's a common misunderstanding. The fact that you and I are talking right now, this is part of my platform. I
Mm-hmm.
write, I'm on video, I'm on podcasts, I have articles, I have a website. All of those things are part of the platform.
Mm-hmm.
And from that, you want to be sure, and I know this might sound old school, but it really isn't. Email marketing is still the number one way for you to communicate consistently and with a guarantee that your audience is getting your message. And so I work with you to be sure that you've got a really strong lead magnet from your content, that
Yes.
you've
So
got
can
an
you
email
explain for those that don't know, for those that don't know what lead magnet is, can you explain what that is?
I will. Your lead magnet. Think about this. When if you've ever been in a store and they say sample, would you like a free sample? And you've now either tasted or, put some, maybe it's lotion on your hand.
A cream or
That
something.
a cream. That's a lead magnet. They're trying to get you to sample something so that you want
Mm-hmm.
the bigger product. And with a
Yeah.
book, a sample could be everything. A lead magnet could be a worksheet from your book. It could be a
Mm-hmm.
sample chapter. It could be a bonus of some kind that you're offering. So that lead magnet is doing exactly what it says. It's like, if this was the magnet over here and here you are, I'm
You're the lead.
putting I'm bringing you into my world.
Yeah.
And once you've done that, you then want to, well, I think of marketing like a garden. So I've now sown my seeds. So you pick that up and now you're in my garden and I need to nurture you. I need to water, I need to be sure you've got the nutrients you need. So I'll be doing that with a series of follow-up emails. I may
Mm-hmm.
include more goodies. I may give you another gift. And over time, I'm going to invite you to take action, just like you said at the very beginning. Please go and subscribe to my YouTube channel.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's what you're doing with the lead magnet. So it's kind of a lure out here, but you're providing something of value
Mm-hmm.
to the
Yeah.
audience, and then they get to come along on a journey with you, and it's a lot of fun, and the return rates are incredible. About for every dollar you invest in email marketing, you're getting a return of $42.
Mm.
So it's one of the least expensive to
So
invest in.
are you helping your clients to build that structure? Is that what you do?
Absolutely. That's the very basis of my from book to clients program. That's what we're going to do. We're going to start from the very beginning, go
Yeah.
through the process so that by the time you get to the end of it, you've got your magnet, you've got your email series, and you know how to automate it. And it doesn't matter what email system you're working in because these principles apply across the board.
Yeah, whether you use MailChimp or any other system, you do
Mhm.
the same thing. You just have to plug and play and then put it in your own
Right.
system.
Yeah.
Well, it's
And I
fantastic.
found, yeah. And you want to make your lead magnet attractive. So it needs to look like something of substance. Even if it's going to be a one pager, it still needs to look like, ooh, this has some weight and some value to me.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. And so when you are working with someone, so how long is that process? Because you say you would love for them to reach you either as they're writing or before they're published. So which means pretty much
Mhm.
as they're writing. So
Mhm.
from start to you let them go with a certificate of graduation. Congratulations, you're certified. So what is the length of that process? What and from beginning to end?
Okay. Well, if I'm working with someone before they're published, that might be arranged because everybody writes at a different pace.
Yeah.
And depending on, you're going to be working with, you may be working with a developmental editor to help you organize the material. You're definitely always going to, I'm going to say this right out loud. Everybody needs to be working with a copy editor who is going to go through and making sure that the grammar is correct, that the
Mhm.
punctuation is correct. And usually they are the last ones to go through. So the developmental editor would be earlier on, but there's a lot of different flavors of those. And if we're meeting beforehand, then it could be a couple of sessions, or they could come through the program too, even before the book is out, so that they understand the structure of how they're going to keep people in their community. And authors who have built up an email list over time, they'll tell you that's their most valuable asset. So in the program that I'm doing, that's an 8-week program. When I'm working one-on-one with clients, that can be variable depending on the pace they're going at and if they've already
Mhm.
engaged with other people. And I definitely have resources that I can connect them to in the writing process, because I'm not really the book coach in terms of getting them to write the book, but I can
Yeah.
definitely show what they need to include if they're using it in their business. And when you know that when you start the book, it makes it a lot easier than if you just go and you write and then you go, "Okay, here it is," but you don't know if anybody wants it. And
Yeah.
I
So
I
it's sort of
I'm kinda lazy.
what comes first, right? The chicken or the eggs?
Well, exactly, and a lot of authors do this. I mean, I think you're doing it too because you're in the process, you've been interviewing people. You can go from one media form to another. So if you've been doing workshops, if you've been doing blogs, if you've been doing podcasts, video or audio or a combination, you can take that content and rework it to make it into a book because you already have proof of your concept. And a
Mhm.
and a lot of authors now are looking at, well, what if I crowdfund? Well, crowdfunding is a marketing campaign. Pure and
Yeah.
simple. That's what it is. And if you don't have the picture of where you wanna go, you're not gonna be able to get there. I mean, I liken this to driving around with no sense of direction. You don't have a map, you don't have a GPS system, and you're just tootling around. Well, how are you gonna know when you get to where you wanna go? So,
You don't know.
I wanna help people create that map so that they've got the structure that makes it so much easier to make decisions, and then you know if you're off course or not.
Yeah, of course, of course. That makes a lot of sense. So because like right now I'm just as I said, I'm in process of writing. I know what I want to do, I'm going to it's a self-help book, and there's each chapter would be an area where you could ask yourself question, right? Like how do I become more responsible for my life? So okay, take responsibility. So that would be one chapter. So that's a self book that can be read sporadically, one chapter at a time,
Right.
regardless it's not
Yes.
chronologic, right? Like you don't have to read the first chapter or the second and the third and the fourth and the fifth and then
Right.
so and nobody ever wrote anything like that before. I'm just kidding.
Oh, you are so funny. Um, well,
but it's
but,
it's to
you're
each
having
their own
fun with it
flavor, right?
too. Yeah,
Yes.
and it's got your unique voice, and that's what I think makes me different. I'm not telling you, you must do this, 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 and this. I'm giving you a structure and letting you bring your personality and your message
Yeah.
into the mix. I'm not saying, "Oh, you have to be on LinkedIn and Facebook and TikTok and YouTube," and, I probably could find about 20 more things. Because you know what? Your audience may not be on all those platforms.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
I like to start simple. I like to help authors build habits so they can take what they're learning and apply it not just for this project, but for future projects. And when
Hmm.
you say even with a self-help book, I can already think of several companion products that would go
Of
with that.
course.
So yeah, so you could have a journal, you could have a workbook, you could have maybe a meditation series. There's a
Hmm.
lot of different things that you can do with your material. And once you stop thinking about books being, in this shape of a container, it's the message, it's the transformation that you are offering to your
Hmm.
audience. That's what a book is.
Yeah, yeah, I like
Yeah.
that, and I like the ideas. Thank you. And so I remember we talked about you have had some health problem, and if you want to talk about that, and how did that
Mhm.
propel you into doing what you're doing now, and how did that assist you in some ways?
Well, I can show you the books that I actually was working on for a client at the time, and
Sure.
it was really interesting because one of them is hiding. Oh, there they all are. These little guys. I was working with my client Deborah Myers, who is an acupressurist, and you know Deborah. And
Hmm.
so we were in the process of creating her books. Now, I got diagnosed with ovarian cancer. And yeah, and so here's someone. I have worked on computers for more than 30 years. Well, chemo makes it impossible to do linear processing. Your brain can't do it because the chemicals just interfere with that. So not only I had already designed the book, but I couldn't do the production. So we
Mm.
brought in another person to do the production. So I was the creative director. I had, gotten 99% of it done, but I just couldn't, carry it to the finish line. And as a result of that, it was wonderful because it just freed me up to just be my normal idea bunny, popping up with all of these different possibilities. So the books got created, they were published, they went up as ebooks. Oh, well, her series is a little different. The whole concept was to help children and their parents, students and teachers were the first two books, help them use a process called the daily clean your house flow to have energy balancing. And there was also a video. And of course, naively, I thought, oh, yeah. At that time, I said, oh, that'll be simple to do. Well, not so much because there isn't an integrated, easy way to do that. So we learned a lot. But as we were doing this process, and as I was, going through treatment and recovery, so Deborah was working on my energy to help me heal.
Yeah.
I I discovered there were some people in my life that were not helpful. They were very
Hmm.
negative, and I said,
Yeah.
pause on that. We'll check you out when I get well. And I also recognized that I wanted to do my business differently too, because now I had this experience of, oh, you can do this part, but let's delegate this other piece so that I could work where I work the best. And it took about, so I got diagnosed at the end of 2013, just about this. Oh, yeah. The 28th of December, 2013, I was in the emergency room and I didn't know what was wrong yet. I just thought I had an alien trying to come out.
Yeah.
And I was diagnosed. They knew I had cancer, but they didn't know what kind yet. So
Yeah.
next week, when I went to my doctor, they finished up the testing and discovered I had ovarian cancer. And
Hmm.
it surprised me. But even in the emergency room, I said, oh, well, what do I do to get well? And that was the approach I had the whole time, not
Yeah.
that, "Oh, I'm a
Yeah.
victim and ooh, yuck."
I'm gonna
I said,
die or
"Okay,
whatever.
nope, I never pictured me dying from this." I
Yeah.
said,
Yeah.
"Oh, okay, let's figure this all out." And
Like a
I
bad
probably
headache.
was,
Okay.
oh, seriously, I was a little naive. I was a little naive, and I can even remember the first day I went in for chemo, I brought my laptop thinking, "Oh, well, I'm gonna be hooked up, I'm gonna have hours, and I'm not doing anything, and no one's gonna be calling me." well, I forgot that they're gonna have an IV in my arm, and I couldn't do anything, and I fell asleep most of the time anyway.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
as I was going through treatment, I was picturing myself being well. When I finished, I sailed. I actually sailed through. I mean, I had very few disruptions and side effects from this other
Nice.
than being
Yeah.
really tired, and I lost all my hair. That was the worst day. But outside of that, I started a whole program. Oh, seriously. For most women, the day your hair falls out is the day that you lose it. I mean, I
I
was in
couldn't
tears,
imagine
and I know,
losing my hair, you know?
well, you have really, really long hair, and if you knew ahead of time, then you could have cut it off and saved
Mhm.
it and made a wig from it, but I didn't know that. So, I started a process of changing up my eating while I was in treatment. I learned afterwards what else I needed to do, which meant changing some of my exercise programs. And because of having cancer, I have to tell you, I look better now than I ever did. I'm stronger now than I ever was, but it was a longer process than I anticipated. I thought you just, start here and you go through treatment and then boom, everything's back to normal. Not quite so much. So the
Yeah.
resilience and tenacity that I have and being curious have now come full circle into my mentoring practice, and I help authors understand that. One failure or one obstacle does not mean you are done. It means, oh, maybe there's another way to get to your
What's the gift
destination.
into that? Or, what have I learned from that? And I think it makes a
Yes,
big difference into the way people actually, and that's why, that's what I do with my coaching, right? Like it's like, okay, we all have ordeal. We all have event in our life that caused us to go, you know, like that deflates us. But then, okay, for 90 seconds, perhaps, okay, I give you 2 minutes, but then, okay, so turn around and it's like, okay, what do I do about that right now? How do I want to move forward in my life so that I can learn something from this, grow from this, that I can
mhm,
feel better about myself? Like for you, you say, okay, now how do I get better fast, right? And you went and
exactly.
researched and you said, okay, I eat better, I gotta sleep better, I gotta do this, I gotta do that, I gotta eliminate negative things in my life, I have to, and then you clean the
Yeah,
house, mentally and sometimes
perfect.
physically.
That is absolutely true, and I didn't always reconnect with people that I went when I looked at it, I went, "Oh, there was something really not healthy in that relationship," or they wanna always be doom and gloom. I'm about gratitude, making a choice to be happy,
Yeah.
and what you described too, and what I realized, I went through something that they've now identified as post-traumatic growth. So something ho I'm gonna say horrible or challenging happens, and then suddenly it puts a person into a trajectory of rapid and intense change for the better, for
Yeah.
the better.
Yeah.
I mean, and it doesn't mean I was ignoring that this was something serious, and I did have an episode later on, but it was so much smaller because in perspective, I think I think that's part of how I really look at being, um, looking at organic over paid. When you are real, when you're authentic, when you're transparent. I mean, I was so transparent. I told everybody, I said, "You're gonna notice a few things happening, like my hair is gonna fall out, and I'm gonna be a little tired and all of that." Because I thought, well, if I tried to hide it as if I had done something wrong, I hadn't done anything wrong. I
Yeah,
just happened
exactly.
to,
It's just a
I
phase
hit
in your
the
life right now.
absolutely. It was a genetic thing that manifested, and I went, "Okay, let's move on." And the same thing with your book. I mean, sometimes your book isn't selling not because it's not good. It could be the cover's the wrong cover or the title
Exactly.
isn't
The title could be
connected.
the wrong title. Yeah, I've
Yeah.
heard story of people that didn't have the book wasn't moving or whatever, and they just changed the title, and all of a sudden it's a number
Poof.
one, right? It's just
Yes. Yeah. And I mean, you've probably your book and your business, nothing is the same as it was the day you started.
mm-hmm.
Things change, you learn, and being open, is it's the improv model. Yes, and, "Oh, so this happened. What am I gonna find out now? Oh, so this happened to you? Tell me more about that." Being
Yeah.
curious and willing to experiment, that's the hallmark of how I love working with people because they suddenly see new opportunities that they didn't know were there, and that's what happened to me. So I not that I'm wishing anybody to go through cancer because
No,
it's
no,
not
no,
a good
that's not
thing.
the idea. But we all go through different ordeal that sometimes we feel, oh my goodness, this is the end of the world. My life is over. Or it could be a
Right,
divorce, could be being really sick, it could be anything, right? Like there's so
right.
much things that could happen. It could be just somebody losing their job, or it could be, and then they decide that they're gonna become an author, right? So it's just like who knows what, right?
Oh,
So it's
yeah,
just a question of, regardless of why you decide to have some movement in your life and you're changing or you're transitioning, and the snake that loses skin every so often is not out there crying. It's like, oh my goodness, I lost my skin. No, it's like, hey, I'm growing, like, yay, I'm
yeah,
growing, like celebrating
yeah,
that. So that's the same thing when we get hurt and when we get little, I call that, speed bump in our life. It's like, oh wow, that was an event. Okay, so what have I learned
yeah.
from that? Well, don't go so fast in the street that have speed bump, because if you're gonna hurt your bumper, and regardless of what that is, right? You
Oh,
learn.
yeah, yeah. Oh, that no, that's a beautiful way to look at it, and I think too, sometimes it does take something to slow us down for us to appreciate what we do have and
Mm-hmm.
how we can have more happiness in our life, and maybe something that you're doing isn't as supportive as you thought. I mean, I don't know about you, but the pandemic made me pay attention to the fact that, oh, it's okay for me to take time for myself. I don't have to
Yeah.
go 70 hours a week. I can spend time thinking, I can spend time meditating, I can spend time outside and
Yeah.
just kinda unplug rather than always striving to be in front of other people and, you know, I do wanna be in community, but I'm an introvert. I am.
Mm-hmm.
I need to process. It doesn't mean I don't like people, but I need time to
Yeah.
process
Exactly.
when I have conversations. And before the pandemic, I was probably putting myself out there way more, not just not out of my comfort zone, but to my detriment. Because if I do that a lot without having time alone, I crash.
Yeah.
I'll get a cold or, something
Yeah.
to slow me back down,
Yeah.
and so
Yeah. Your
now
your body's talking to you for sure.
it does. I mean, it now I'm listening to it. I wasn't paying attention as much as I should have been before, and with authors, if you really want to spend time alone, do it. It's okay. But when you
Mm-hmm.
are with people, the fact that you like to spend time alone makes you better at conversation because you listen. Well, you know the story. Better be nice to me or you're going to be in my book. And not in a good way. So, you gotta watch out for that. But, that is so critical to
Mm-hmm.
respect you. And I'm not saying don't push your boundaries, but some things that you're doing, you can grow and stretch. Stretching's different than putting yourself into hot water like a
Of
frog
course. Of course.
and then feeling, totally out of control. So you can speak, you can learn to be a better speaker, you can control the environments you're in. So maybe you don't want to be in front of 500 people at a time, but you're fine talking to maybe 20. or 25.
Yeah, yeah. So find your audience, like, and I think that for an author that is coming out there, I think initially if they are introvert and shy, like podcast is ideal because you're often not live. I've never really been like this is sort of a live podcast, but
Right.
like often podcasts are recorded, and then if you say something wrong, then you say, "Oh, can I say that again?" And then they'll say, "Yeah, sure, we'll edit it out." And
Yeah.
then so that gives you the chance to start talking more about your product, your book, or your whatever you've created, and it gives you a
Yeah.
chance to be more comfortable to talk about it. And after a while you do maybe a little conference, and where it's live but it's behind your camera and you don't know how many people are watching, and then eventually you might go and in the library and have like a little 50 people gathering, and you have people coming listen
Right.
to you, and there's different steps that people can take in order to make themselves feel comfortable.
Well, I'm the president of Redwood Writers, and we are the largest chapter of the California Writers Club. There's 22 of them throughout the state.
Okay.
And our motto is writers helping writers. We have intimate meetings of about 20, 25 people where you can read to each other and get a little bit of feedback, and another one where you just read to get practice reading.
Yeah.
And we have other events where you can stand up in front of the group. So in February we have author launch. All about 20 authors who published during 2022 will stand up and they'll do a 5-minute reading in front of the entire
The
audience,
group,
which
yeah.
will be
Mhm,
made.
mhm.
It'll be members and family will all be there. And what I have seen, I've been a member for quite a while, but I've been on the board for a shorter time, about 5 years, I think. The quality of the presentations, and it's a fine line between, you're not acting, you're reading your work. The the quality of our presenters has improved, and I'm just so delighted because I know how scared a lot of people are about getting up in
Yeah,
front of a
yeah,
room. And when you're reading your own stuff, that's a whole nother OMG moment. And I had the experience the first time I read my work, which was from my memoir. I had to stop because I started crying because it brought up all the
and
feelings
draw back all
that
the
I
emotion.
had.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and I didn't expect that because I'd rehearsed. I said, "Oh, I'll be fine." And I got up and I went,
Yeah,
"Okay."
of course, of course.
But because I know energy work, I knew what to do to get myself
Yeah,
to breathe and get back in balance. Oh, before I do this again, I'm going to do some work before I stand up in
yeah,
front
to
of the
get
room.
ready for sure.
Yeah.
Well, Judy, we could talk all day, as you mentioned earlier, and it's already been almost 45 minutes.
Oh my goodness. Yes.
So if people want to know more about you, because it's very interesting, your path and how you can help people, moving forward into their writing experience and
Yes.
publishing and promoting their book. So how do people can get a hold of you?
Well, the best way is to go to my website and you can see my name right underneath here. It says Book Marketing Mentor. So bookmarketingmentor.com. That'll take you to the homepage and you're going to see a couple of different places you can find goodies where I've got a masterclass once a month. And my
Okay.
next one is with Melody Owen of Author Nation. And we're going to be talking about building your community, which is really important. And that's a free webinar. Um, and I've got a program starting in January. As I said, it's called From Book to Clients. If you're interested in that, after you connect with me on my website, you can send me a message and let me know that you want to know more about that. But I also, can I tell them about the free things they can
Yes,
get?
of course, of course.
Okay. So at bookmarketingmentor.com, then you want to do forward slash freebie, FREEBIE, and it'll take you to a page where you can download a free PDF on 7 ways to monetize your book while you sleep, which I think is very helpful, especially if you're thinking about how is this book going to work in my universe of my book, myself, and my business.
Wonderful. So go check the freebies. That'll be a good way to get downloaded, something to help you out. So that's awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here with me today, and thank you for we made the time initially to get the great sound and make it work perfectly. We had a little bit of technical issue to get started, but I'm glad we did. It was amazing information in there, and you're very fun to talk to, and you have so many stories. I mean, we could talk here all day. And I'm glad that you're feeling better, and that you got strength out of that. So I believe, strongly believe, that out of adversity we grow, and we become, stronger if we choose to. So it's up to us, and that's what I'm here for, to help people just grow out of their adversity and make them feel better and change their mindset and rock the second half of their life. That's how I say it. So stay there, Judy. I'll be right back. So thank you so much for listening to this episode. I'm really happy that you were here. Let's see here. So make sure that you um, subscribe to my YouTube channel, like the show, and also click the little bell so that you can be notified next time I'm on. So I'll be here. I'll see you next year. Next time I see you. And for those that are listening right now, I wish you a happy new year and all the best in the new year. And I'll see you on January 2nd. So we'll talk about moving forward into the new year. So until next time, be kind to one another and have a wonderful week. Goodbye.